The real spirit of sculpture is in direct carving. When the form gradually emerges out of a solid block of stone or marble, when the form is gradually freed, it slowly comes out.
Start from your childhood. You give us some kind of biographical information, like when you were born and where and that sort of thing.
I see.
Very basic question. When were you born, Mr. Abueva?
In 1930, here in Manila at the PGH. Because at that time, my father was a congressman. He was serving his term.
Do you come from a large family?
Well, fairly large. Actually, we were 9, but 2 of which died. So we're 7 living.
Is it what you would call an artistic family?
No, not exactly, but I know my parents appreciate the arts. Yes, and we that time when we were there in Tagbilaran, we had at least one bust of Rizal. I don't know where my father. He must have bought it from Manila. Yes, in concrete. Yes.
Is it one of those mass-produced busts, or?
Yeah, it could be, but it was well done. It was a concrete bust of Rizal.
Which province do you come from?
From Bohol.
From Bohol.
My father is from Bohol, my mother from Cebu.
And that's where you spent your childhood?
Yes, in Tagbilaran. Although the hometown, my father was in Duero. That's about 73 kilometers from Tagbilaran.
What about this bust of Rizal you mentioned?
It was the only sculpture I was aware of. It was in the house all the time. I think we gave it away to the town. I think it's in the library of the what they call convent. We give it away.
Have you noticed that in practically every plaza in the Philippines, there's always a statue of Rizal?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, all this stereotype mass-produced Rizal.
Do you think that kind of atmosphere gives people an idea of what sculpture means, or?
Well, in a way, it does, but it's not a very good example of sculpture, considering that it is mass-produced. But at least it gives him an idea of what is a freestanding sculpture. I suppose the early, beginnings of sculpturing was, I think, during my grade school days, during the gardening period, when we do some plots, do planting, we play with clay, we make some animal forms, simple forms. I think that was the sort of start of my working with clay.
So what sort of clay figures were you doing then?
Oh, they were just figurines, animal forms, just simple forms.
How old were you then?
8 years old, 7, something like that.
So this kind of playing around with clay, did it give you some kind of fascination?
Yes.
Or do you think that there's a kind of this difference in the sensibility of painterly sensibility and the sculptural sensibility?
Yes, I think there is, because in sculpture we mainly work with our hands. We are in direct contact with the materials. As far as I remember, I always loved to do something with my hands. It's really manual work. I think to be a sculptor, you have to be really what they call engaged in actual work, manual work.
Can you imagine yourself being a painter with that kind of background?
Yes, I can, but I think the challenge is not as great. Because in sculpture, you have to deal with some physical problems, three-dimensional problems. And actually, it's like construction, and I like very much to do some sort of construction. Yes.
Well, as a child, were you very interested in carpentry work and that sort of thing?
I did a little, yes. And in my high school in Tagbilaran, I already did some artwork, And before that, I was working in a machine shop during my first year. I was then in Cebu. I worked in the Emo Ponce machinery. I was handling then the milling machine. That was already 1946. I was 16 years old then. At the same time, that was the time I was exposed to a sculptural shop, the Fidel Araneta Sculptural Works. He studied in UP, but somehow he did not finish. He has a big sculpture studio.
What sort of sculptures do they do?
They do religious images primarily.
Just like the Maximo Vicente.
Yes, similar to that. I was sort of an apprentice now and then.
Mhm.
Afterwards, after my second year, then I moved to Tagbilaran, where I again work in the public works. No? I was a storekeeper in the Bureau of Public Works.
A storekeeper.
Yes, in the supply.
So that has nothing to do with sculpture.
No, nothing. But I was always in touch with all the concrete workings there. You know, they were making concrete pipes because the storeroom was just adjacent to the fabrication area, reinforced concrete work.
So in your early experiences, you were more or less introduced as a carver or a modeler. I mean, as opposed to being a constructivist.
Yes, I was. I think when I was in a stint with the public works, I was exposed into the fabrication of concrete construction. Although I did not work actually in the shop, but in as much as it was within the vicinity, that gave me an idea of the how to handle the material.
So what did your family think of all your interest in sculpture? What sort of remarks did you get from them?
We lost our parents during the war in 1943.
I see.
Both of them were killed with the Japanese because they were connected with the civil government. Actually, it was my brother. After finishing elementary, my intention was to enroll in the Cebu Trade School, no? Arts and Trade.
Yes.
But my brother Teddy, who is now in New York, advised me to take the regular high school instead because of the arts, which is, I think it was a very good decision. No?
I see.
Otherwise, I would have plunged myself direct in what they call manual work without much of the humanities. I would say it is very important on the what the role of the humanities in the what you call training of an artist.
This is your elder brother?
Yes, Teddy.
So it was more or less an encouraging.
Teddy, he was very much familiar with the arts.
As a young child, I mean, what did sculpture mean to you? I mean, did you derive more pleasure from it vis-a-vis, let's say, painting or print or what? I mean, as an art form.
Yeah, to me, it fascinated me. I mean, the three-dimensional form in itself, I think, was the one that really interested me most. You know.
Do you remember the early sculptures you did as a child? As a young man.
I did a few lapidary, from the cemetery, all those RIP.
Oh, yes.
Just a few in Tagbilaran.
Who asked you to do this?
Some of our friends did just did it in cement, some were in white cement. Sometimes we make synthetic marble, put some pigments in the white cement, then you shake it to get the effect of marble.
Marble.
Yes, but it was not actual marble at the time. I also did some bust. I remember I was in the Rafael Palma College. I made a clay bust of Rafael Palma at that time. Portrait, sort of portrait. So it was among the first pieces I did.
After your high school studies, where did you go?
I enrolled here in UP in 1949 in the School of Fine Arts then. In UP, here in Diliman. Yes, it just transferred a year before from Padre Paura. Well, at the time it was headed by Professor Tolentino, who later became the director of the school. Of course, it has been changed to college. It's no longer a School of Fine Arts.
Who were the other professors of sculpture in UP?
Aside from Professor Tolentino, we had Ambrosio Morales. He was primarily an engraver. He was the one who did our coins, the 5 centavos, 10 centavo coins. Well, there were other professors like Castaneda, but all of them are dead now.
No. So you have a lot of memories about Professor Tolentino?
Oh, yes. Yes, because he was really my professor, man.
Do you think he was an influence in your work?
Yes, he was, as far as the figurative sculptures are concerned. Of course, he was very conservative. No?
Yes.
He belonged to the old, classical school.
So you had to do, as a student, you had to do all this classical...
the standard, yes. But aside from that, I also did some contemporary works.
Did he notice any tendency in you to be, on the modern side?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, in one exhibit, which I participated with the first, modern sculpture, the following days, he asked me whether I was the one who brought that monster to the exhibition hall.
What was this monster?
It was an adobe sculpture of a kiss. man and woman, no,
I see.
embracing. Oh. That was my first Adobe sculpture.
Was it in an abstract shape or?
Not it was stylized.
Stylized.
It can still be it can easily be figured as figures, no? But it was what they call more of the Adobe.
Adobe. So
Yeah.
this is just one block of Adobe.
Yes, yes, one block of Adobe, which was bought by Mrs. Ledesma, Rita Calao Ledesma.
As a student, what kind of art were you attracted to?
No, I think because of the Tolentino, it was more of the Greek, you know, the classical. Then at that time, during our say second year, there was a team of what they call artists who came over. I think they were sent by the government to update the design of fresco. That is Nasira before it was known as fresco. Price, it was something to do with price exchange, something like that. But it was intended to improve the local crafts. And one of the team members was a sculptor named John Resley. He was from Cranbrook. Resley was really the one who encouraged me to carve directly on wood, direct carving, because he noticed the great variety of hardwood we have.
Yeah.
Because most of the time we were working plaster of Paris. You know? After modeling in clay, we make the plaster mold and cast in plaster. And he was really the one who encouraged us to work directly on wood carving. So since that time, I keep on working on wood, directly carving.
Is there a particular wood which you more or less prefer working on?
I would prefer to work in Molabi. It's a hardwood. It has sort of an oval by itself, like this. These are all Molabi, you know, those suspended chairs, even the door. Because I find Nara too red. Oh, this is Nara. Like it's too reddish, red color. Of course, Nara comes in different shade. Like this yellowish. I think it's superior to Nara when it comes to sculpturing. And most of our old images, the big ones, are in Molabi. Like those old cerealists which were dug out, holding this long
Like a
stick.
candle.
Candle bearer. It's the best wood we have actually.
As a student, who were the foreign sculptors whom you admired?
Well, I would say Brancusi, no? Constantin Brancusi, the Romanian, yeah. I was really fascinated with his simple, you know, and solid forms. I think he's the one who really influenced me most.
To tend more towards the very
Simplified,
simple,
yes.
shapes and forms of Brâncuşi.
I would say I admire his work most compared to other contemporary sculptors.
Did you do any consciously make works which are very evocative of Brancusi's style?
Well, recently I made this column na Imelda, column.
It's like the endless column of
Yes,
Brancusi.
yeah. In Brâncuşi, it's more angular, no?
Yes.
In my case, it's all carved. It's curved back and forth.
I see.
Yes, it goes this way, but the sides also follows. No? It's
I
all
see.
the same.
You call this columna
Imelda, yes.
obviously in homage to our first
Yes, sort of. And maybe in recognition of her role in promoting the arts. I have it now it's displayed at the inner court of the Asian Tourism Institute.
Oh, I see. How tall is this columna Imelda?
It's about 11 feet. It's in brass.
Is it indoors or outdoors?
It's placed outdoors.
The image was approved by the First Lady herself.
No, I don't know if she has seen it, but I just named it after her.
Do you think there has been an effect upon your work by example, by painters? And I don't mean sculptors. I mean some quality of painting which try to incorporate in the medium of sculpture. I mean like the massiveness, for instance, of a Michelangelo.
Of course, practically every artist adores the work of Michelangelo.
Yes.
Right?
I mean,
As a sculptor, you know, but as a painter, of course, his say the forms in his Sistine Madonna paintings.
Yes.
They're all actually sculptural. You know?
Yes.
They're very three-dimensional. They look like actually sculptures. You know?
So you treat sculpture as a sculpture. You don't try to put in sort of outside influences, let's say, like painting or whatever.
No, not except I have a few painted sculpture, no? Polychrome sculpture, but there are just a few of them, not much.
Do you advocate sculpture for the open air or for indoors?
Actually, it should be in the open air because I always believe sculpture is a monumental art. No? And I think it should be placed outdoors as much as possible.
What do you think about like Anthony Caro, the British sculptor, who says that I mean, as far as he's concerned, he wants sculptures to be placed in an interior enclosure because he says that if you put his sculpture outside the open air, the mere fact that it's not contained within a space,
You
sort
get
of,
lost, huh? Well, that's more of a personal concept. But the thing is, when you design for outdoors, you have to make it extra big, you know, because the tendency of sculpture when you place outdoors is to diminish in size.
Yes.
So that it has to be sort of heroic in size to make up for the openness. Because if you make, say, a life-size figure outdoors, it will look very small. So you make up for the optical say, illusion.
And you advocate a sculpture which has what you say heroic or
Heroic size.
monumental proportions?
Yes, for outdoors.
You don't agree with, for example, this idea of Nick Joaquin that the Filipinos have the heritage of smallness? That we always we feel comfortable with small things, with small santos and that sort of thing.
No, I don't seem to agree with that. Probably it has been influenced by these, say, the santos in the churches, no? Because majority of our, say, statuary or images are confined indoors.
Yes. Do you feel more at home working on a large monumental scale, rather than doing small miniature items?
Actually, I would prefer doing large things outdoors.